Hello and welcome to Car and Bike, a brand new podcast. It's an exciting time to be a motorcyclist, especially in India. Lots of new launches this year and lots of much anticipated bikes. We've had the Harley X440, we've had the Triumph Speed 400 and of course the Scrambler 400X. And now I've just got back riding one of the most anticipated motorcycles of the year, the all-new Royal Enfield Himalayan. Of course, had a great time riding it, and today we're discussing on paper how does it compare with the rest of its rivals. Kingshuk has already ridden the Scrambler 400X, and we'll talk about how that engine is compared to the Royal Enfield Himalayan's new 452cc, the Sherpa 450 engine, and of course the other rivals like the KTM 390 Adventure, and as well as the BMW G310S GS.
Right. So, like Preetam said, what a time to be a motorcyclist in India. I mean, the fact that manufacturers like Harley Davidson, Triumph, and all these premium manufacturers, they're now finally getting into single-cylinder engine motorcycles. It just means that you're in for a slew of fantastic machines. And of course, talking about the two big heavyweights, the Triumph Scrambler 400X, which I rode a couple of weeks ago, and the Royal Enfield Himalayan 452, one of the most highly anticipated motorcycles of all times maybe.
Correct. Speaking about that kind of engine displacement, the writing has been on the wall for the past 7-8 years. In fact, if you go back for the past 8-9 odd years, look at the sales figures, particularly in India, you would see the growth numbers have been almost 40 to 50% year on year. The volumes have been low, but the growth percentage every year, the CAGR has been 40 to 50%, at 250cc to 500cc segment.
Right.
So the writing has been clear. This is the segment that's growing. And in fact, if you go look at the global adventure market, previously about 10 years ago, all the rage has been middleweight, 800, 900cc adventures, and the big full-size adventure bikes. But hardcore adventurers, people who go around the world, they have always been rooting for something which is lightweight, something which is manageable, something which is easy to fix. And that's the kind of products that we're slowly seeing from all the manufacturers.
Absolutely.
Harley Davidson, the Made in India X440, we're expecting a Scrambler based on that version as well.
True.
To have fun.
I mean, it was a story that we broke.
Yep. And the Triumph Scrambler 400X, again, sort of mild off-road focused motorcycle, quite fun to ride as you
Absolutely,
found out.
it's a hoot.
And now the Himalayan 450, it's called the all-new Himalayan. It will replace the Himalayan 411.
Right.
So Kingshuk, let's talk about the Triumph Scrambler 400X. We've ridden the Speed 400, the same platform. The Scrambler 400, of course, gets more suspension travel, different ergonomics, more upright riding position. Engine is the same set of tune. So what was your experience like riding the bike?
I mean, I had a look at both the Speed 400 and the Scrambler 400X, and in flesh, I mean, it is very easy to determine the fact that the Scrambler 400X has a much more grander visual appeal, because even though the bike's measurements are similar to that of the Speed 400, but you sit tall. It has a tall stance because of the 19-inch front wheel.
Correct.
Longer suspension travel. So it gives you that comfy, tall seat height, and visually it looks much more stunning than the Speed 400. And talking about the performance.
So between the two, the Speed 400 and the Scrambler 400X, if you look at them side by side, it's the Scrambler 400X which looks more substantial.
Absolutely, 100%.
More road presence, looks like a bigger bike than it is, whereas the Speed 400 looks much more compact.
Much more compact, that's true.
So what was your ride experience, like the engine, the handling? Let's talk about that.
So the good thing was Preetam had attended the Speed 400 ride, and I hadn't ridden the Speed 400, which is why I was going with a very clear line of thought, because I hadn't ridden the Speed 400 and gotten accustomed to its performance.
So the clean slate, so to speak.
Yes, a clean slate, and of course being a Triumph model, sure, manufactured by Bajaj, but being a Triumph model, I had high expectations. And it would be safe to say that most of these expectations were met, and how. The performance, the 398cc engine on the Speed 400 and the Scrambler 400X, lots of power on tap, and The best part that I like about the bike is, despite its eager performance, it doesn't scare you off at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a motorcycle, it's a bike that offers very friendly, accessible performance. I mean, somebody who's new to the world of motorcycling, somebody who's graduating from say a 150cc bike to a 400cc bike, the Scrambler 400X and even the Speed for that matter fits right in, and you won't have any trouble, scaring yourself silly riding that bike. You can try and push it hard, and particularly the Scrambler 400X, you sit very comfortable on the bike and you can ride for long distances. The seat is comfy, the handlebar is quite wide, and you sit tall, you get a better view of the road ahead of you. And in terms of performance, very linear power delivery, and the bottom end is strong, the mid range is good. The top end is where the performance dips slightly, but that's all right. I mean, all the power is focused on the bottom end and the mid range. Strong acceleration in the third and the fourth gear, and if you want to ride it on the highway, it's a good motorcycle.
Yeah, after all, it's got about close to 40 horsepower, right?
Yes, absolutely.
40 horsepower and 37.5 Newton meters of torque. So that's more than enough for all your needs, really. You can commute on it, just twist the throttle away, you can surge ahead of the traffic. On the highway, you can do good speeds to cover long distances.
So you can easily sit at say 100, 110 kilometers per hour, no doubts. At that point in the rev range, there are no vibrations either. So the vibrations are slightly below in the power band, but at the top end, the rev range is quite smooth. The power delivery is very nice.
And it can go up to 130, 140 if you want a emergency overtake or something.
Sure, absolutely. The one spot of bother that I have with this Scrambler 400X is the fact that the brakes are very dull. I felt them to be dull. Now, of course, Triumph / Bajaj, they say that they have made it on intention, on purpose, because it's it's a Scrambler and it doesn't have to be as sharp as a road-going bike, as a roadster. But I think the brakes could have had a stronger bite on the Scrambler 400X, and one easy simple fix on that is that you can just put the sintered pads from the Speed 400 and swap them for the organic pads on the Scrambler 400X, and I think the problem should correct itself.
After all, even though it's a Scrambler, I mean 80% of the time it will be ridden on tarmac on everyday roads. I mean, how much time will you be riding it off-road? Yeah,
maybe 5 to 10%, that's about it.
So road going, if you want that extra braking performance, then that's a good idea maybe to switch the pads from the sintered pads from the Speed 400 to the Scrambler 400. It'll give you more stopping power.
Exactly.
The brakes you feel leaves a little to be desired.
Yes, and
are they that? Do they scare you or they're okay?
So because I tried out panic braking with this Scrambler 400X, and you have to pull in the lever really hard, and the rear brake, you have to like really go hard on the lever to get some feel out of it.
Right.
So the rear brake in particular feels rather dead. So I would rather do some adjustment and make the brakes feel stronger, better, sharper on the Scrambler 400X. Right now, in terms of a panic braking situation, yes, it's not going to stop very quickly. You will have to anticipate that. If you have bought the bike, you will have to anticipate that and start your braking maneuver at least a second or two earlier than you would actually plan to.
But the engine, that's the the talking point of the Speed 400, Triumph 400, right? It's a very flexible unit.
It's a very tractable engine and very entertaining. You want to ride it like a hooligan, you can do that. You want to ride it like a decent matured guy, going on a daily office commutes, you can do that. When the weekend comes, you can just drop your laptop bag, just put on a hydration pack and just go on into the trails and explore it. Now, disclaimer, the Scrambler 400X, it's in the name itself, it's not a hardcore adventure bike, it's a Scrambler after all.
It's a Scrambler, so you don't expect to do big jumps and the like.
Absolutely, right? And talking about big jumps, Preetam is a big fan of big jumps. The Scrambler 400X, it gets a suspension travel of 150 millimeters on both ends, and this is an increase from the Speed 400. So if you're hitting big rocks on your trail, or if you're doing jumps and all, you will feel that jerk and it may unsettle you. And it's not good for the bike also, because also remember the fact that the Scrambler 400X right now it gets alloy wheels, not spoke wheels. So they're not meant to be taken. They're not meant to take hardcore abuse.
Yeah.
So mild trails, soft jumps, you know, you slide the motorcycle around because it does get switchable ABS at the rear wheel. You also get switchable traction control. So all these features are there in the bike, ride by wire, slip and assist clutch. So all these features are there, and it makes your riding experience very, very nice, very, very easy,
Yeah.
and more importantly, very enjoyable.
So if you're somebody who wants to start riding off-road, I mean soft roading really, and maybe learn to do a little bit of sliding around, small jumps, then the Scrambler 400X actually makes for a very versatile machine because you can commute on it, you sit upright, it's very comfortable, you can ride it in the city, you can go on an occasional long distance ride, and when the road ends, you can go check out a trail, do some fair bit of off-road riding,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely, you can do that.
By off-road riding, we mean trail riding, and to me, the engine is the highlight of that platform, the Speed 400 and the Scrambler 400. Superb engine, very tractable, very versatile, and very, very entertaining indeed. And in fact, the Speed 400, after I rode it, it was probably one of my favorite bikes of the year. And I was waiting for the next one, the much anticipated all-new Royal Enfield Himalayan. And first things first, it's not at all like the old Himalayan. So I'm sure a lot of people think that the old Himalayan looks a lot better. Old is gold and so on and so forth. But the new Himalayan, I think, when you see it, when you ride it, you will realize that it's not even a shade on the old Himalayan. They're completely poles apart in terms of performance, in terms of capability.
So Preetam, what are the changes? I mean, of course, this is a brand new motorcycle ground up.
Yeah.
So what are the changes, broadly compared to the Himalayan 411 and the current Himalayan 452 with the Sherpa engine?
Well, for starters, the all-new Royal Enfield Sherpa 450 engine, Royal Enfield's first liquid cool engine. It's got a completely redesigned internals, a lot of changes. We've done a reel on it. We've got a story on it. You can link on the story and read all about it.
Big first, huh?
Big first liquid cool engine from Royal Enfield, 4-valve top end with a DOHC double overhead cam, diamond-like carbon coating in the internals, a lot of it, semi-dry sump. With that, what has happened is, in fact, the suspension travel of the old Himalayan and new Himalayan more or less the same 200 mm. But with the semi-dry sump, what has happened is the ground clearance they have been able to increase, and also the rear shock, the positioning of the rear shock has helped Royal Enfield increase the ground clearance. And what's also important is the weight distribution. They've moved the airbox towards the front of the headstock of the chassis. So the airbox that gives more water wading capability, by the way.
Nice.
And also has the structure of the engine which has slight lean towards the front. The balance has been, it's not something which has been designed overnight. I mean, it clearly shows that a lot of back and forth has been happening. In fact, right after the launch of the first Himalayan, this new Himalayan, the Sherpa's work started actually in 2017.
Wow.
1 year after the current Himalayan was launched.
So the new bike is almost, say, 7-8 years in the making.
Not the new bike per se. The engines work. The Sherpa engines work started in 2017. So right a year after the last gen Himalayan was launched, Royal Enfield had already started work on the new engine, the new platform. I didn't have a lot of expectations while going into the ride. I went with a blank, clean slate, so to speak. Not too many expectations, not sky high expectations, not very low expectations. I definitely thought it will be an improvement over the old Himalayan. But after riding the bike, it's improved on so many levels. In fact, first time I rode it for the first few kilometers, I was riding it all wrong because this Royal Enfield singles are known for low end torque, and that's why I was short shifting, and the torque actually comes, it's a wide tractable range. The engine's got a very wide range of tractability from 3000 RPM right up to 7000 RPM. Here I was short shifting before 4000 I was shifting up, and it just wasn't moving. But after a few kilometers, I got the hang of the engine, the nature of the engine. That's when I realized it just keeps going all the way to 7,500 RPM. And the revolution actually was also on road, on tarmac, because this new Himalayan actually handles very nicely on road. It's very intuitive. It drops in and out of corners. You can go pretty quick around a corner. still be in control, be confident that there's not going to be any surprising moments, so to speak. And the roads we were riding on were beyond Rotang Pass. Of course, we crossed through the tunnel, not across the pass. And there's sparse traffic on the roads that we're testing the bike on. But even though there'd be the odd surprise around the corner, but even if you're leaned over, the new Himalayan would be in perfect balance, and you know exactly what it's doing, exactly where it's going. And the brakes, sintered pads on both sides. So no comparison with the old Himalayan. The brakes are very, very nice. Again, ABS, dual channel ABS. Rear ABS is switchable for off-road work. On the flip side though, when you're riding off-road with the ABS switch off at the rear, the sintered pads may take you by surprise, because I dabbed the brake once while I was riding off-road.
So it could be like too sharp.
Very, very sharp, and it's a long bike. The wheelbase is quite long. It's longer
than the... almost 100 mm of difference between the old of the Scrambler and the...
Yeah, almost 100 mm. And it's longer than the old Himalayan as well. It's such a long bike. So the moment you dab the brake, the rear steps out like how? It's like naturally steps out. So it's a long bike. But as long as you don't get nervous, you'll be able to control it. But that could take you by surprise if you're new to off-road riding. Just be careful, mindful of the bite of the brakes. They're really, really sharp. Good part is, on the road, you have very good stopping power. But again, what's been a revolution is how it handles on tarmac. It's really nice.
This is like despite the 21-inch front wheel.
Absolutely, despite the 21-inch. A lot of people have been asking me about, a lot of people feel the 21-inch wheel. In fact, today I got a call from somebody who used to own a Honda Africa Twin. That he's not very fond of the way the 21-inch handles on tarmac. But we'll get the bike, of course, for a longer test. You ride the bike and see it, because the Himalayan, it's a completely different animal. The only point of contention that I have is the low end has been somewhat sacrificed. So if you look at the torque curve, there's a flexible torque curve compared to the others. Right from 3000 RPM to about 7,500 RPM is when it starts falling. So you have this whole range of revs from 3000 RPM, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 5,500 RPM range to play with. But the low end, because it's so tractable in that range, the low end feels slightly lethargic, if you can say that. But then again, there's another way to look at it. If you're riding slowly, riding very nicely like a gentleman, short shifting and staying within the speed limits, 2000, 3000 RPM you're riding, then there's no problem. But if you're constantly doing 6000 RPM and you go below 3000, if you slow down, go over a bad patch, then it takes some time to pull. So the tractability starts from 3000 RPM. Below 3000, it's not like the old Enfields where you get the torque right from the bottom end, because it's not a long stroke engine. Again, it's got a
difference in the
engine architecture also. So the longer stroke engines had the stroke of the piston was longer compared to the bore, right? Even the LS4110, it's a long stroke. The name itself of the old Himalayan is LS4110 engine. It's a long stroke engine, like your 350cc engines. So the long stroke engine makes power and torque lower in the revs, and they make less power in the short stroke engines. This is not a short stroke, so to speak. It's not a short stroke engine, but it's got a shorter stroke than the LS4110 engine and a bigger bore. In fact, if you look at the
bore into stroke
numbers, 84 mm by 81.5 mm, it's almost square really.
Over square-ish.
Slightly over square, you can say. Slightly over square. 84 is slightly, bore is slightly bigger than the stroke, which is 81.5 mm. What it helps is, of course, more power. Broader power band, and there's 4 valves now with a double overhead cam, and lots of changes in the engine, which has made it less clattery, less mechanical noises from the engine. So it's a really, it's a revelation that what Royal Enfield has been able to manage to do with the new Sherpa 450 engine. And we've been riding a lot through bad roads, belting at 80, 90, 190 kilometers per hour over broken roads. We did a around 25 kilometer stretch up and down over no roads. And all of us are going all out. And to me, the takeaway was 2 takeaways. After that bad off-road riding, there was not a squeak from the bike. And there was no noise from the center stand. There's a center stand the Himalayan comes with. There's no clanking noises from the center stand also, even though we're going over.
That's like a great shift in terms of fit and finish quality.
Absolutely. The quality has taken a different level altogether.
Fantastic.
So when you talk about the engine, it's got similar power figures, right?
Right.
Compared to the Triumph. Triumph's
The
got a
power figure is almost the
Almost
same,
the same.
39.5 at 8000 RPM. The RPM also stays the same for top end power.
top end power, 39.5
Right.
bhp, 40 PS, 40 horsepower.
Right.
Same power figures. Torque, the Triumph has got 37.5 at 6,500 RPM. So peak torque is achieved slightly higher in the revs on the Triumph, while the Himalayan gets peak torque at
39, I think.
no
40.
Newton meters, but it comes in at 5,500 RPM.
So
But if
1000
you
RPM lesser
yeah,
than
but
the
if you look at a
Scrambler.
torque curve, the Himalayan's got a broader range. If you
Right.
look at a torque curve, I've got an image of the torque curve here, comparison with the Speed 400 and others. The Himalayan's got a much more usable torque curve. So what it means to you in the real world is it's got a much more tractable engine. Of course, unless you ride them back to back, how is it from the seat of the pants feeling is a completely
Right.
different ball game.
Right.
But as far as engine character is concerned, on just looking at the torque curve, the Himalayan's torque curve looks to be far more flexible than all its competitors, including the 390 Adventure, including the BMW G310 GS, and including its closest rival, the new Triumph Scrambler 400X. But what I feel seat of the pants feeling what could be different in terms of that pulling power or the
Right.
performance that we're talking about is the weight difference, because the Scrambler 400 is a good 10 kilos lighter than the Himalayan.
Right. So that's a significant difference.
That's
10,
a
12
significant
kgs
difference. So seat of the pants feeling, even though the spec sheet may say something else, the torque curve may show something else, seat of the pants feeling,
Right.
if you ride side by side, same rider,
Right.
they could be different, but we can't say for sure unless we ride them both back to back, which we intend to do at some point of time, provided Triumph sends us a test unit. Because I have not been able to ride it as yet. But yes, so don't look at the specs, don't look at the torque curve. It'll give you a fair enough idea of how things work out. But unless you ride them back to back, if you're in the market to buy one of these, it's you who should decide. It's you who should take a test ride. Maybe you don't need that extra capability the Himalayan has. Maybe the Scrambler 400X is good enough. Or maybe you need the versatility that the Himalayan offers.
Right.
It's entirely a personal choice.
Right.
Some people may not like the adventure bike looks of the Himalayan. Some people may like the modern classic looks of the Triumph Scrambler 400X more.
True. Absolutely.
And for some people, that could be all the capability that's required.
Right.
And for some others, they may think that they will need the extra capability. It's like buying an SUV. A lot of people buy these 4x4 SUVs, but
Right.
they seldom
Hardly
get to use it.
Yeah.
So 230 mm ground clearance, more suspension travel, 200 mm suspension travel on a Himalayan. Some people think, oh, I'll get it, I'll need this, I'll use it when I need it. But then you may not end up using it. So it's entirely your personal choice, how you ride it, where you're going to ride it. That's what's going to decide.
Talking about the features, I mean, I was just doing a rough study of the two bikes, and this may be the first time that a Royal Enfield beats a Triumph in terms of features, because the new Himalayan, it gets a 4-inch circular, fully digital TFT screen, and it has Google Maps integrated into it. So
Absolutely.
the whole console can turn into a Google Maps, like very similar to your smartphone. But the Triumph, the Speed and the Scrambler 400X, they don't get any sort of connectivity, be it Bluetooth, smartphone, nothing.
Yeah.
So that's one big miss there. And apart from that, I mean, like you said, the fit and finish, you have experienced, you've seen the Scrambler 400X as well.
Yeah.
And you've seen the Himalayan. So fit and finish wise, how do they compare?
Well, it's a fit and finish wise, I think Royal Enfield is really up the game. I mean, there are a few odd wells here and there,
Right,
which you'll
right.
also find, if you nitpick, you'll also find a few odd wells here and there on the Triumph Scrambler, which
Right.
will not be to your liking. Paint quality, I think the Scrambler, the Triumphs take a slight advantage, if
Right.
not a vast advantage. But overall, Royal Enfield has really upped the game in terms of fit and finish. You look at that console, it's so intuitive, so easy to use. And plus it gets two ride modes also. now.
Right, absolutely.
Eco mode and the performance mode. I did try the eco mode just to test it out. What it does is it lowers the power in the first 4 gears, not all gears.
Okay.
First 4 gears it lowers the power. Fifth, sixth you get same power so that you get
Right.
good cruising speed. And it softens it's got ride by wire again. I think the first ride by wire, first Royal Enfield with
To
ride
get
by
right
wire.
by wire, for sure.
So several firsts. First liquid cooled engine. First I think 4-valve head
Engine,
on an
yeah,
engine.
yeah.
First engine with DLC,
Right.
diamond-like carbon coating, and semi-dry sump.
Right.
And first Royal Enfield with ride-by-wire, with ride modes, that too, 2 ride modes. So
Yeah, I
several firsts and
Royal Enfield is like, leveling its game and how.
leveling its game in how, and I think the new Himalayan is actually quite a versatile motorcycle. I mean, for anyone who's looking at an adventure bike today, the Himalayan will certainly make a solid, tempting case, no matter the budget. Even if you have 20 lakhs to spend, you'll get a fraction of that cost of what the Himalayan offers is very difficult to resist, because it's bang for your buck, value for money, whatever you call it. It nails it to the T.
Absolutely. So it could be all the motorcycle that you need.
Absolutely, it could be all the motorcycle that you need. I mean, I myself ride a big adventure bike, a multi-cylinder bike that you know of. And today, if I had to look at buying an adventure bike, do I need that kind of performance? Do I need that kind of power, really? Because if I do go off-road riding, or used to go off-road riding on my big bike, and I drop it, I'll need a friend along who can help me pick it up. And if I drop it 3-4 times, oh, that's enough. I'm too tired. Let's go back home. That's the end of the off-road outing. But on the Himalayan, it's not very heavy. You can pick it up very easily yourself, and it's a lot of fun. You can do, actually, if you want to up your skills off-road, then the Himalayan is a far better platform than a bigger adventure bike.
For sure. And plus, it's easier to fix because
easier to fix,
cost.
cheaper to maintain. Something breaks, you won't spend through your nose to replace it.
And the good part is that you'll find a Royal Enfield workshop even in the remotest corners of India.
Absolutely.
So that's one good advantage that Royal Enfield has over Triumph right now, at least in the moment.
Yeah, in fact, if you look at the old Himalayan, it's got a sort of strong fan following in India, but it's got a strong fan following. In fact, what Royal Enfield told us is they never intended the Himalayan to be such a bestseller across the world, but it did end up becoming a bestseller across everywhere.
Many other geographies.
And people have started accepting it because it's easy, it's simple, it's light, and where it lacked, we've tested the old Himalayan before, where it lacked was a little more performance. That
has been fixed.
Fixed, and how? Much more than what we expected. So the new Himalayan in my book makes the cut as the almost perfect adventure bike available right now. Almost perfect adventure bike. There's only one bike which I want to ride, which is the Yamaha Tenere 700, which is not on sale in India. We don't have a test bike here. But looking at the value for money proposition, the price point, and what it offers as a bike, features, kit, everything, I think it makes a very, very strong case as the perfect ADV that anyone can look for, really.
And what about the price? I mean, the Scrambler 400X, it's 2,63,000 rupees, very competitively priced.
Correct.
The Himalayan, I think the prices will be announced
later this
month
at the Motorverse,
At the Motorverse.
The Royal Enfields, which used to be earlier called the Rider-Mania Festival, is called the Motorverse now. So prices will be announced then. So I think Siddhartha himself said it's not going to be very cheap. It's going to be expensive, but it won't be very expensive. My estimate is it will be priced at around 2.7, 2.8 lakh ex-showroom max.
So just below 3 lakhs.
Just below 3 lakh. But the logic that I feel is that if it goes beyond that, it will go into the 650s territory. So it won't be so close to the 650s also. I think sub 3 lakh rupee price tag is what you can expect, at least for the time being. Maybe later on, 6 months down the line, a year down the line, prices will be revised. But for now, I think 2.7, 2.85 is a fair enough estimate for what the Himalayan. And at that price, I think it's a steal.
I'm sure.
It's absolutely a good value for money product.
So, I mean, all that now remains is to ride both these motorcycles back to back. Maybe do a small off-road trip near Delhi NCR. But as far as things stand now, if you are in the market for a budget adventure bike, so to say, you have your options between the Royal Enfield Himalayan 452, the Triumph Scrambler 400X, and of course you also have the KTM 390 Adventure at the higher spectrum, and that's because now with the 2023 update it gets spoked wheels first, and it also gets fully adjustable suspension, but then it is also priced significantly higher at 3,61,000 rupees.
Yeah. So that makes the KTM 390 Adventure, many people don't like it, but I've always been a fan of it since I rode it first. But after riding the Himalayan, I feel that the 390 Adventure has got certain strong points, but you have to be a little brave with it. You have to keep the engine on the boil. And the suspension travel, after, I think it requires a bit more suspension travel. I haven't ridden the new one with the adjustable suspension.
Right. But even with the adjustable suspension, I think the maximum suspension travel at the rear, I think is about 177 millimeters.
That's a lot less than what the Himalayan offers. 200 millimeters both ways, and plus 230 mm of ground clearance. So you
clearance
can
on the
go over
Himalayan,
anything really, without a care in the world.
Absolutely.
So brilliant. And for now, in European markets or at least abroad, the Himalayan will also come with tubeless wheels. But India, it will take some time because all that
Homologation process
takes time. First, it will have to be homologated. Then the supply chain, those regulatory things have to be sorted out.
If you do want tubeless spoked wheels on a Himalayan, I think it's going to cost slightly extra also.
It's going to cost a little bit more. So maybe expect around 20,000 rupees more difference.
But I think in the long run, the money just pays for itself because it's
much more easier to
much
fix.
less hassle.
You're riding out somewhere alone and you have a flat, it's much more easier to fix a tubeless tire than taking off the wheel, taking out the tube, patching it or replacing the tube itself, again putting it back into bedding it, it's a pain.
So,
but for now, I think 2023 has been a fantastic year as far as motorcycling in India is concerned. We've had a lot of exciting new products. But that brings us to, we'll of course be reviewing all of these bikes that have been launched together at our annual Car and Bike Awards jury meet, which will happen soon. We don't have a date as yet, but we'll of course be evaluating all these bikes and may the best one win.
Absolutely. Looking forward to riding the Himalayan, and I think you're looking forward to riding the Scrambler 400X.
In fact, that reminds me, we should do a long trip with similar bikes.
Look forward
if not, if Triumph doesn't end up sending the Scrambler to us for a test, maybe something else we can do. Take the new Himalayan. Royal Enfield have promised us to give it to us for some time. So we'll be riding it on a daily basis, give you an in-depth report, regular in-depth reports of how it behaves in the city, how it behaves in traffic, and all that.
I mean, that's right. Speaking of traffic, that one question that I had, I mean, with the coming of the liquid-cooled engine, I mean, I think we'll have to wait for a rather in-depth report for that. But do you think it will heat up in like your Delhi NCR traffic?
I can't say for now because the conditions that we're riding in was about 10-12 degrees maximum temperature Celsius.
Right.
So we're really high up in the mountains, about 3,000 meters or 3,200 meters, 10,000 feet above. So maximum day temperature is around 12-13 degrees. So can't say for now. I didn't feel any heat, although I was wearing full gear. Unless we'd ride it in the traffic here in mid-afternoon, I don't think the heating should be an issue with the liquid cool engine. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's about it now. So interesting stuff with the new engines, a lot of performance at a very interesting price point. So you have a lot to choose from, and don't worry, there's a lot more coming. Of course, you have the Harley X440, you have the Triumph Twins, Street 400, Scrambler 400X. Now you have the Himalayan, that all-new Himalayan with the Sherpa 450 engine. So lots of different bikes, different flavors, and different personalities, so to say. And eventually, it depends on what kind of riding you do, what kind of looks that you desire. So no matter what we say, it's you who needs to take a test ride before you put your money down to buy the bike.
Right.
Always wear a helmet, be safe on the road, and ride safe.
Take care, and we'll see you on the next one.